Hewea, te pau o te whare kia tū tanga, e ka pau whakairi ngā rā mātau ki runga, I te hui, whānau, hara mai te tō kia hau mi e hui e, tāki e. This week, on the hui.
Are hospitals under too much pressure?
It's not fit for our modern models of care.
You say cut back, we say fight back.
When a system is under strain, it's the most marginalised groups that are probably going to fare the worst.
And the consequences can be deadly.
They were sitting in the waiting room and she stood up off her chair and she fell forward onto her face.
Plus, crochet artists Lissy and Rudi brightening up the world one loop at a time.
We have a duty and obligation to share the love that we've experienced.
Connecting all people, igniting joy globally.
E ki ana te kōrero ko te mate te taura kume I a tae with te tangata ki te pō. Ngā mate o te wā, hara mai haere. Tātou kei te ao maramati he wa mauri ora, and welcome back to the hui. Emergency departments in our hospitals have been the focus of much attention. Extensive waiting times are causing massive pressure points on the system for staff and patients. In the case of Gisborne mother Jane Brunt, her trip to the emergency department had devastating consequences, leaving her whānau in mourning and with unanswered questions. Mene te purongo, a John Boynton.
The emergency department at New Zealand's busiest hospital has been called unsafe for patients in a damning new report.
A patient who died in the waiting room had been waiting for 3 hours.
Deaths in our emergency departments.
The safest wait is the shortest wait.
Hospitals under pressure.
You say cut back, we say fight back.
Or is there not enough care in ED?
You need to fix what's broken, and to me it's very broken.
When a system is under strain, it's the most marginalised groups that are probably going to fare the worst.
She was my first mokopuna.
Mariana Stevens shares a special bond with her moko Jane.
There was this spontaneous humour that her and I just sort of clicked into. Jane would always ring, or she would come round, say, let's go out for breakfast, Nan, and that's what we would do.
When Jane was 23, she became pregnant with her first child. Her nan and dad, Alfred, were thrilled for her.
I was happy because she was happy that she was going to be a mother.
But the birth was traumatic.
She had to be rushed away and taken to theatre, where she was operated on.
She lost quite a bit of blood.
Jane should have been given a blood transfusion after she gave birth, but she wasn't. And as a consequence, her heart had to work 10 times harder.
Both she and her baby survived, but Jane suffered a heart attack 5 months later. Jane now left with a heart condition.
But she didn't want to let it affect her role as a mother. I think that made her feel complete when she became a mum.
But in early 2023, Jane unexpectedly suffered a major stroke. She was just 29 years old.
She had to be flown to Wellington Hospital from Gisborne, so she was flown down there for treatment and she was in intensive care.
She was very ill before the stroke. It just increased after the stroke.
In the following months, Jane Brunt had to go to Gisborne Hospital several times with different health issues.
I did used to love just resting my forehead on hers, just having that hongi, wanting to give her my life and not see her go through any more pain and suffering.
On the morning of August 13, Mariana and Alfred receive a phone call from Jane's partner.
Jane felt dizzy and unwell. So they had gone to Gisborne Hospital and they were waiting in the emergency department.
Jane's partner then calls again half an hour later in even more distress.
She still hadn't been seen to, and he was pretty upset, and he kept saying to me, "I don't know what to do, Nan." And I was trying to calm him down over the phone.
Those are two pretty panicked calls from her partner.
Very, especially that second one. After that second call, he rang again and he was just beside himself.
Miriana says Jane still hadn't been triaged, despite having difficulty breathing and having chest pain.
They were sitting in the waiting room and she stood up off her chair and she fell forward onto her face.
Jane's partner yells out. Finally, medical staff take notice. She's rushed to resus. CPR is performed. At 12:20, the defibrillator delivers the first shock. Followed by adrenaline, CPR, and further shocks. At 1 p.m, CPR is still going, while a doctor tries to find Jane's partner. But it's all too late. 45 minutes after Jane collapsed, CPR is stopped. Time of death, 1:05 p.m.
She had died at the hospital.
Not something you want to hear.
To fall down in an emergency department and pass away there, it's not okay. It's not okay.
Coming up.
There's no excuse for racism in healthcare.
Is there equal treatment for Māori in emergency departments?
Ethnicity does matter.
Taroko I hoana e tāmara mā ko te wehenga tuarua o ngā kōrero. We have more of Jane's story next. Hoki mai anō e ngā iwi. Research and experience show there are major inequities for Māori when they present to emergency departments. The whānau of Jane Brunt know the catastrophic impacts of health inequity firsthand. Mea nei te wahanga tuarua o te Purongo a John Boynton.
In recent months, deaths in emergency rooms have been under the spotlight. In August, a woman died in Rotorua Hospital waiting in ED. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon admitting wait times were far too long.
We've got really clear targets around the number of people we expect to be treated within 6 hours in an emergency department. At the moment, that is blowing out tremendously.
When people turn up to emergency rooms, what care should they be provided?
It should be the best clinical care that you can receive. It happens less for people who are Indigenous or people of colour or ethnic minorities, and so we've got a big problem there.
Dr. Elena Curtis led the most comprehensive research into inequities in emergency departments in Aotearoa.
The death rate for Māori within 10 days of presenting to an ED is higher, significantly higher than non-Māori. The odds were 60% higher for Māori. Now that is a signal that something's not happening right for Māori compared to non-Māori here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, in the emergency departments across our country.
When a New Zealander turns up at the emergency room or when a child starts school, they don't turn up thinking about their ethnic identity, they turn up thinking about their need.
Do you think that comment is fair?
I think it's really short-sighted and it actually doesn't reflect the evidence base that we have, both here in New Zealand but internationally and around the world. Unfortunately, ethnicity does matter. And ethnicity does have a role to play in how people are treated in not just emergency departments, but in our health systems in general.
Mariana Stevens believes her mokopuna's symptoms weren't taken seriously.
Had they done their initial observations, they would have known how unwell she was.
If she's displaying signs of shortness of breath and being dizzy and fainting, why wasn't she seen to straight away or within 10 minutes, 15 minutes? There's a good chance that she could have been here with us still today. I don't believe anyone should be dying in the waiting room or an emergency department. I mean, she deserved a bit more dignity than that.
Why don't you think she received that dignity that day?
I don't want to pull the racial card, but I believe within myself that probably because she was Māori, and her partner being Māori and being hysterical.
Jane's partner tried to advocate for her, but he was labelled as being aggressive and security alerted.
She was very angry.
As many people would be.
Yes, yes. And for me, it was just a reaction to his partner passing away.
So when a Māori patient maybe is just being forthright, being articulate, expressing their desires, which is quite normal for your expectation from a Pākehā patient, but as soon as a Māori patient does it, they're aggressive, they're dangerous, we need to call security.
Jane's whānau were also left with questions about the cause of Jane's death.
And even now, we still don't know what she actually died from because it doesn't state exactly what it was on her death certificate.
It says that she presented as obese. I find that a bit offensive. The heart condition that she had, it affects people who are thin and healthy as well. To me, that's undignified.
So in other words, oh, they're here, they're unwell, it's their own fault.
Dr. Elena Curtis understands the pressured environments of ED, but she says bias and discrimination can play a part in the care patients receive.
If you have that, in addition to already an underlying belief that some ethnic groups are bad or some ethnic groups are just naturally non-compliant, which is all just myth-telling, it's not true. It's racist ideology. And there's no excuse for racism in healthcare.
After initial contact, the whānau never heard back from Gisborne Hospital.
There were two questions. Why was she left waiting that long? And then she died. But what caused her death? My mokopuna standing up in the A&E, in the waiting room, and then dying there. There needs to be processes put in place so that family can question these things. And it's okay for us to do that and get those answers.
After the whānau contacted the hui, Te Whatuora requested a meeting with them. At a meeting, the findings of an internal and external investigation into Jane's death were discussed.
I don't believe it was a review at all. It was about let's try and see if we can present this in a way that safeguards them, but not give us the answers that we're looking for.
In a statement to the Hui, Te Whatu Ora Tairawhiti Acting Group Director Operations, Sarita Karodia said, "Firstly, we wish to recognise the loss of Jane Roberta Taihatsu Rose Brunt and the deep impact this has had on her whānau and friends." The Chief Medical Officer of Tairawhiti Hospital and the hospital's Manager of Quality and Patient Safety met with Ms Brunt's whānau in August to offer our apologies. A formal written apology on behalf of Health New Zealand has been sent to Ms Brunt's whānau. It is with regret that we acknowledge this whānau hui could have taken place earlier and that our communication to Ms Brunt's whānau should have been better. We have accepted the recommendations made in both investigations and we are currently working to implement these.
Just sort of swept under the rug, and she deserved more than that. Every time I look at her photo, which is every day, it's always there. It's never going to go away. To be honest, I still break down every now and then.
Jane's whānau will keep fighting for the truth.
She's with me, hoping I get the answers for all of us.
Now, as mentioned, Te Whatu Ora declined to be interviewed for this story. But in a statement, John Swakak, the Group Director of Operations, Tairawhiti, acknowledged that some of the decision-making at the time of Jane's treatment and death may have been influenced by unconscious bias. Mr Swakak said the hospital's team had reviewed Jane's treatment and was starting to implement changes to reduce the chance of similar incidents happening again. He added, quote, "We have apologised to the whānau directly and have acknowledged that we did not do a good enough job of prioritising Miss Brunt's condition or listening to her partner. We very much regret what happened and we are deeply sorry for the loss of Miss Brunt," end quote. Kia hatia, e tiwi, e haere ake nei I tātātou hui, the crocheting couple collaborating to configure a colourful world, one loop at a time. No mai anō e ngā iwi. Lissy Cole and Rudi Robinson live their life in Technicolor. The Auckland couple say they're united by love and crochet. Together they create massive 3D artworks made of bright neon wool. They say their works are a labour of love, gifted from their tupuna in another realm for them to bring to life in this one. Lissy and Rudi invited the hui along as they brought to life their latest big project, a waka of dreams. Mea nei te purongo, a Leighton Heiko.
It's a quiet start in the quaint city of Whakatū Nelson, but not for those at the Refinery Art Space.
Yep, I'll follow you with the... Okay. I think this is all the wheku and all. Yeah. Probably a good plan just to bring everything over, eh?
Hell no. Anyway, it's not. He knows how to help. Yeah, it'll be fine.
There's a lot to do and only days to do it.
So this will probably come up. If you push it towards me, yeah. Everything has arrived. Yeah. So what we'll do now, we'll unpack.
It is a real joy to make and create and to see it coming to life.
And with their newest masterpiece, they plan to make an impact.
I really want people to feel in awe.
And to achieve that, their art needs to be bold.
The point of our neon colours is on purpose. Neon is in your face. It is loud and proud.
Meet Lissy and Rudi.
I'm in the mood for dancing.
Another kiss for Rudi. He's so lucky.
A creative couple from Tāmaki Makaurau.
Ta-da!
Their love for creating blossomed alongside their love for each other ever since they met 10 years ago.
He's a MacGyver. I say, Rudi, let's make this. He says, yes, my love.
When we met, we knew straight away that we had these really complementary and different skills and life experiences with so much similarity, of course, because we're both Māori. But, you know, he grew up in the bush, I grew up in the city. He worked with hard materials, I love the soft materials. He's the nuts and bolts guy, I'm the dreamer. We got married at home in 2017 and we were making all the decorations. And there was this one day that we were both making things. He was outside carving and I was sewing all this bunting. And the feeling of joy was so immense. And I was like, we've got to send this feeling up into the universe. So we went and sat on our little back porch and held hands and said a real simple karakia. And we were like, this is how we want to live our life. This is what we want to do, be creative together and working on something bigger than us. I left a full-time job where I was super unhappy, but I didn't know how I was going to sustain myself. And so I was in a year of just trying to figure it out, which is when I picked up the crochet hook and immediately became obsessed. It was just so right.
And so, after watching yarn bombing on YouTube, Lissy tried it out herself.
We live in Otahuhu and there were lots of unloved spaces. Yeah. And so we saw a fence that was, there was an ugly old section behind it. And we were like, perfect, this is the canvas for our first yarn bombs. And they were really simple. And I crocheted a rainbow and I didn't know how to make it go like that. And so it was sort of like that. And they were really rudimental, but people loved them. Our community loved them.
It went from weaving fences to objects, including their car.
Because I was like, let's take this Joy Mobile.
I actually really love crocheting.
We got so much love. It's the most simple act of putting a piece of colourful wool on the outside of something. And so that's how it started.
And when Rudi, with his engineering background, came on board, the projects kept growing in number and scale.
When people ask me, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, I crochet. And some people are like...
You're taking the mic now.
Are you taking the piss out?
But there's no taking the mick here. Crocheting is what they do.
It's a kaupapa, so you live it, breathe it, sleep it, dream it, talk it every day. We have really definite roles. He does the designing and the carving, and then I come and I crochet the skin of them, and then he comes back along and crochets and designs and attaches all of the embellishments. I am the dreamer. He's the make those dreams happen guy.
Are there any dreams too big?
No, never,
Oh,
never,
no.
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 This is Whānau Harikoa, their first large-scale 3D art piece. Standing 4 metres tall and 7 metres deep, it tells the story of Matariki in a bold way.
Harikoa is an expression of love, of aroha. And when we think about our nannies and the relationship that we have today with them in the Wairua realm, the deeply felt joy, you know, our kaupapa is ko wharenui harikoa he poro whakahākoko ko ue nuku tāwhana ki te rangi. And wharenui harikoa is a refracting prism of tupuna-inspired light that shines across the sky like a rainbow. It's a universal message, but told in an absolutely 100% uniquely Māori way.
Hundreds of thousands of people have already seen the piece on display, and many more will as it makes its way to Ōtautahi Christchurch later this year. And then there are plans to take it global.
I guess it's a duty. We have a duty, an obligation to share the love that we've experienced.
And also manifesting intergenerational healing, one loop at a time, connecting all people, igniting joy globally.
For the past few months, the couple has been creating their next big piece, commissioned for the Nelson Arts Festival.
I have had this dream of working with Lissy and Rudi for the last 5 years. We had so many hurdles thrown at us.
The glue wouldn't hold.
Bit of a dark place. There's been some structural difficulties, so, a lot of plan A, B, C, D.
And having to stretch time so that we've got enough of it, because it hasn't been much time.
That's okay?
Just 3 months from concept to execution to install.
That's the exciting thing, is to see each piece materialise.
And it's handmade. You know what I mean? It's not a print, it's not a...
AI.
It's not AI, it's handmade. So you're going to see every little stitch. Some people look at that and they see the labour of love.
And Lissy's got everyone helping out.
It's kind of like a team effort. You're working with the crew here and roped me in.
I love it. Look, everything we do is a team effort.
The masterpiece was a collaboration with fellow artist Holly Tafiao.
We should just make a waka. And then Lissy was like, we should just make a waka. And Rudi was like, honeys, we can make a waka. And then next minute...
Pūnanga Pohewa, the waka of dreams.
Our 2 hulls represent tūmanako and whakapono, and the deck represents aroha. This waka is heading in the direction with these as the foundation, as the platform on which we stand. This waka would be a waka to navigate us to our dreams. We're just sharing a simple message of love. That is the purpose of our art, our mahitoi. We want a world for our mokopuna that is hopeful, joyful, more loving.
Shine your light.
Aye. Rudi says, shine it bright like the Batman light. Not a little torch, the Batman light up into the sky. I love
that. The honeycomb light. Whoa, okay.
The Batman light. Boom. Hei te wiki e tu mai nei e tā marama, coming up next week on The Hui.
Branded for life.
And if you lose who you are, you end up being somebody you're not.
They've served their time.
Well, it's taking the trash out.
Booted out at the border.
As soon as things go wrong, you're out on the next plane.
Returning tangata back to their whenua.
501 deportee, that's at the door now. You're home now.
Starting over again.
When do you stop being a 501?
Sometimes it feels like it's never going to end.
Their plea to the Australian government.
You can't keep on doing what you're doing to us. You can't keep on doing it to your own people.
That's our Hui tonight. You can find all our stories on our YouTube channel. That's at The Hui New Zealand. Kia mau ki te turanga o taputapu a te haumi e, hui e, tai ki e.
Nā te puna whakatongarewa, te hui, i tautoko.